Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Say What. And this is really an exciting episode for me. Past the first one that I did. This is now episode 5, where Jason, who's with us today, and I don't know if I'm going to call you my co-host, but you might as well be because I'm going to banter with you today. We don't have a special guest on with us today. This is going to be pretty raw and uncut. This is just me talking. And Jason, I feel like I had the privilege of seeing you in person unexpectedly on Friday night at the Backroads Bar and Grill for karaoke, which was really nice to run into you. So thanks for pushing the buttons and also being willing to. You didn't get a preface of kind of like where this was going to go today, so I might be catching you off guard a little with our episode.
I mean, it's perfectly fine. I'm here for it. I told you from the start this was going to be your show. You could do with it what you want, and like you said, I'm just here. I push buttons. I make the damn thing happen. So here we are.
And we appreciate you for it. And hopefully our listeners or viewers, depending on which way you're watching the show today or listening to the show, you will have heard, maybe, if we can make it happen, in the editing section or producing section of this podcast, a little intro music that's different from our regular. If Jason can figure it out, and I'm sure he can.
We'll make some magic happen, sure.
Make some magic happen. But today's episode is called Turn, Turn, Turn. And that, depending on your age, I think, listening to the show, I can't imagine anyone who's never heard that song before. But, to everything, turn, turn, turn. There's a season, turn, turn, turn. I feel like I've been literally living the lyrics of these songs. This song for the last 9 months. And what's interesting is I could not figure out when you're in seasons of life or shifting seasons of your existence and what you've gone through, what you've grown through, what your next step's going to be. Sometimes you don't quite know that's what's happening while you're going through it. And then I think once you've gone through enough life changes and seasonal shifts, you start to, if you're lucky, if you're paying attention, you start recognizing that that's what's happening. And if Jason, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm not a patient person. Like, I need now. I just want it all to happen now because I just am an anxious, fidgety person. And I don't mind working hard to get where I need to go, but I just hate, if you've lived the life I've lived, it's just, I don't know, brick walls, roadblocks, unexpected shifts and changes. Like, I know everyone goes through it, but I think people handle them differently. I don't know. So for me, it's a very unpleasant and uncomfortable space to be in. But as I've gotten older, I'm learning to recognize that's what's happening, even though I don't know. Like, I don't know where we're heading. I don't know where we're going. I just know I'm leaving this place and moving into this place, and having to learn to be kind of comfortable or just accept
peace,
that that's what's
right?
happening. And the unknown is a trigger for me. It's very much a trigger for my anxiety. So the fact that I've managed to get through the last 9 months is actually probably some personal growth has happened.
I would say so, because I was very much the same way. I was I needed things right now. I didn't want to wait. If I had my mind set on something, that's what it was. And if it didn't materialize in what I thought was an acceptable amount of time, and it went over that,
right,
I got antsy, I got anxious, I got discouraged, I got all the ill feelings that come with disappointment, because that's kind of the underground thing there. As I've gotten older, and with like my life, my circumstances, my situation, some of which I let you in on. I mean, just before we came on the air here, I had to teach myself patience, because if not, I would have driven myself crazy. But I think it's individualized as to, number one, what's going on in a person's life, and number two, how are you going to respond to it?
Well, and I feel like this whole show is just going to be a deep dive. I like from the get, like right out the gate, because I know that when I've guested on Clouse to the Heart like a while back, and we've alluded to nuggets of it throughout different episodes of your shows, my show, whatever. I feel like getting down into the nitty gritty of this subject it's a vulnerable place to be, but the truth is, I don't think either of us are alone in this. It's just, I've actually had people tell me before, like, you're too open. You share too much about your life. Like, you don't need to do all that. And I'm like, why? I don't care. Like, I'm living life. Like, this is life. Like, life isn't perfect. It's not always going to work out the way you want. In fact, most times it won't. You know what I mean? And that's not me being a pessimist. I'm a realist. And so learning to accept my reality or my realism is another annoying thing to have had to go through, because I am a person who's full of hope. And always just trying to, but learning to take things like a day at a time or a week at a time is something that is very new for me. And it sounds so simple to some people, but it's not. Like, I have to plan out the next 5 years, and everything's got to be just the way I need it to be. And I don't know why I continued to do that, because that never happened. Like, not one time. But sometimes, I've been underestimated many times before personally. And I think the last year of my life has been very interesting, because when and I mean, if people are new to listening to this podcast, they might not know about me, but like, I've been through, and I kind of wanted to talk about these seasons, because the people who know me now, you met me now. So your frame of reference is the now, or the last 6 months. The people who've met me in the last 3 or 4 years don't have a frame of reference for the season I was in prior to moving to Michigan, or in my childhood, or what, we don't know that. We only get what we're given right now to kind of base our opinions on. And it's very difficult when you are in a, I don't know, like a position where people do care about you or respect you, or are proud of you for or they've collaborated with you on things. They see you as like, oh, this is who you are. This is who you've been for 3 or 4 years, not kind of seeing the nuances of what's going on, like in the back screen, and watching what you don't show to everybody, and what you have to learn and go through and grow through. And then all of a sudden, this season of your life is, I don't know, for some people it's ending. And for me, I just feel like it's changed. It's not like an end to one thing and a beginning of something new. It's just taking all the stuff that I've been through up to this moment and opening myself and freeing myself up for new opportunities, and kind of like waiting to see what that's going to be, because I don't know. Like,
would you call that personal evolution?
Yeah. That. But it's weird, because I think sometimes people are going through that and they don't realize that's what they're going through. They just think something's wrong, or, oh, why didn't this friendship work out, or what's wrong with me, or what's wrong with them, or whatever. And what it is, and I'm telling you, normally if you listen to the show, I have my Google facts. Well, I went deeper than that today. I went straight to the real truth of things, the meme facts, like memes that's kind of what I was thinking about this episode this morning. Like, of course, if you think it, Google will put it on your social media account, so it can read your mind. And so I got like a gamut of great content today in my algorithm, but I also thought of this song this morning, and that's, Turn, Turn, Turn. And I was like, that's the name. That's it. Because it's not one of my favorite songs or anything. It's just a song I know, and it spoke to me, but I kind of want to like actually read some of these lyrics, because I also have a really harsh relationship with toxic positivity. And when people think you're shifting, like, I know you're a motivational speaker, so you're always looking for the silver lining and whatever. But for me, I think the reality is, sometimes there isn't one. And I'm not saying my whole life. I'm just saying there are going to be situations where, like look at history, the fall of Rome, if you believe in Noah's Ark, like whatever, like it didn't really pan out very well for those people. But then something as an evolution always comes out of it, whether it's positive or negative, but there's a change.
Right.
And I think having a healthy relationship with change is probably something that as our species, like we have a very difficult time with. And so it's something that I've personally been having to coexist with and learn and work on for a while. And I feel like I finally, in my year 41, I'm not saying I'm doing well, but I am saying that I understand it. You know, old people always tell you, with age comes wisdom. Well, it's, you've lived through enough crap,
right,
that you can recognize stuff. And so that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now. But I broke it down into some categories to actually talk about seasonal shifts, because some of it's just how we process it, and whether it's job, marriages, friendships, you know, projects, whatever, moving your location, new relationships, etc. Like there's just a lot of ways that we as people, like how do we psychologically deal with this? And then also breaking it down into really the seasonal shifts of our friendships and our relationships, the seasonal shift of our kind of like our defined purpose. Like if you feel like you have found your purpose and then all of a sudden that's not, it's changing. Like, wait, I thought I had settled in. I thought I found out what I was supposed to be doing. And then now that's changing. And that's a whole other can of worms. And then really the opportunity through this to use the lessons that you have acquired and your experiences you've acquired to learn and grow and hopefully help others process this. Like that's kind of where I was going with the subject matter today. But I just want to like read this because I didn't realize how morbid this song was. Like, because it's got that cheery, like, to everything. Like, it's so, like, that 1960s, like, beach music. And really, if you look at the lyrics, it's so real. It's ridiculous. It's like, obviously, to everything, turn, season, turn. But then it's like a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, which I hope there's not a time to kill. That's, well, maybe for war. But a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep, a time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, and then go down to the next verse, a time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. Put a pin in that deep dive. That like hit me weird this morning. And then of course to everything, turn, there is a season, turn. And I'm literally in a time and every purpose under heaven. This may go down in history as literally the most morbid ass song to the most cheery ass music.
Melody, yeah.
But
it's like screws with your mind.
Yeah. You know? And I'd never thought of it. Ever. Like usually if this was on in the JC Penney while you're shopping for a blouse, or at a restaurant while you're eating French fries, you're not really thinking about the full lyrics of this. And when I read it, I just went, oh my God, that is like real talk. That is real talk. But this little note down here that says a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. I was like, I didn't even know the song said that. And man, it just like hit me in a place right now, because to quit speaking in broad terms and get down to like the bullet points and the nitty gritty. For those listening, I, as most of you know, I grew up in Houston, Texas. I grew up, my dad was a pastor. We've talked about that in other episodes. So the first 10 to 15 years of my life was dealing, that's who I was. Pastor's kid, grew up there, finding my way through public school from a private school and just kind of figuring out who I am. And I know that when we did the Holly Pride episode, we talked about, the first time I ever went to a Pride event and like that kind of, with the friendships in my life and kind of where that disconnect happened between things I had grown up hearing and being taught and how it didn't really reconcile in my soul, like in my daily life. And I just, so that was like the seed, that was like, dude, I just want to help people. Like, this isn't right. I want to stand up for people. I want to stand with people. I want to serve people. I had a servant's heart. So that has been kind of the same my entire 41 years, but how it looked was very different in different seasons of my life. And so for me, it was just kind of like, being supportive of my friends. And then I had a child. And then I was in mom life. And then I went back to work and worked for a company, Quick Weight Loss Centers, for 15 years in Houston. And I literally worked with thousands of patients, maybe who even knows, over that 15 years. And that was dealing with helping people who had, medical issues due to weight management. I got really good at what I did, but the basis of it all was walking people through and being there for people and counseling people and helping them go through meet their goals and get their life back. And when I moved away and came to Michigan, that was a third of my life at that point. Like, that was my normal. And I moved here, and then we became, we're now new Michiganders, and I helped my husband start a business. And now we were these, like, starting from the, that Midwestern, like, American success story where you're starting from the grit in the beginning and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps if you have boots and creating something from nothing. And then we entered this, like, very capitalist society, trying to make money just so that we could, provide for our family, of course. And then somehow we ended up, we moved to Holly, and then I was working in the mental health field and serving people in that capacity, and then COVID, and then I unexpectedly became an activist. That wasn't even like trying to do that. And, and my life called me into this direction for the last 3 or 4 years. And I hadn't slept. Like, I haven't even slept. It's been one thing after the other because there's always fires to put out. And then I ran for an office that I didn't know that was going to happen, and I gave it anything I do, you're going to get 150% from me. But I did not know that's where where my trajectory was going. And of course I did not win that. And that was, it was hard because you put a lot of, work and, believe me, time and effort into it. But I also, that wasn't going to, like, make or break me in my life. Like, I am not trying to become a congressperson. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that wasn't like my career politician path. It just seemed like the logical next step to help my community. We opened a small business. We had that for 2 years here in Holly. Due to the economy, etc., we ended up, closing that business. And now I work in sleep. I help CPAP patients. Like, so there's like a theme in my life of a heart of service. Sometimes it's in my job. Sometimes it's in my community. Sometimes it's, just helping my friends. But every time those shifts change, particularly this one, because I'm so involved with so many organizations, so many people, so many projects, that when people have an expectation of who you are and how they've known you, how they met you. And when that changes, there comes with great respect and leadership roles comes great responsibility, and so it's hard when you have to, like, when you recognize that your life is telling you you've done what you came to do. Here's, like, you've done this part. That doesn't mean you don't care about people or you're not, going to stay in a heart of service, but it's probably, I'm feeling that shift where it's going to look a little different. And my dog really wants to talk about it down here. I don't know if you can hear her. So dealing with the feelings of, like, letting go is really hard. Grieving, like, it's not even the death, but like the end of a book. Like, I really enjoyed that book. I'm kind of bummed it's over.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where it is. But then, wait, there's going to be a sequel. It's just now the wizards and witches are in different worlds. You know what I mean? Like, it's, that's the best way I can explain it. And it's so hard when so many people know you a certain way. And then it's like, you quit, or you sold out, or you abandoned. And it's not. It's just, that's life.
I've heard that time and time again. Because a lot of what you're saying, I too have gone through, just in different realms. You know, because I thought my life was going to take me into the world of professional wrestling, and that's where I was going to spend the majority, all of my adult life. Well, as time has gone on, and as circumstances had presented themselves, I shifted my focus, because now that world was no longer a priority. It was not. I knew that was not what I was supposed to do, and then I fell into the podcasting and the motivational speaking and things of this nature. And it's like, okay, this is what I was made for. Not only do I feel that, but I had people that I respected, that I valued their opinion. They validated that for me. Now, did I need that validation? No, but it helped. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but they believe in me. You know what I mean? And with you, the thing about you is, as you're telling your story, you're talking. Your dad was a pastor, and from there all the way up to where you are here and now. By and large, most of everything that you have been doing, that you've been affiliated with, has been helping out people in some way or another. So whether it's as an activist, if it's a candidate, if it's this, that, or the other thing, you have dialed into what you're supposed to do. Now you're just figuring out exactly what space in that realm am I supposed to be in.
Well, and it's just, thank you for summarizing that. I'm not the best at summaries. I actually had an experience today on the phone where I had to summarize 4 years in 15 minutes, and I killed it. I was like, I've never done that before. I've never, because I've told you, we've talked about it. I'm a detail junkie, and not everybody is, or they get the point and they're like, park the car, so I'm working on it. But so let's go to, and it's interesting, actually, before we move forward on going deeper, you just said something about with your wrestling career, and you're like, oh, the podcast, you were born to do this, whatever, which I would agree with. But example, when I just mentioned when I ran for county commissioner last year, there was not a day in my life that I ever was like, you know what, I should run for county commissioner or anything. I was asked, I was approached, because people see things in you don't always see in yourself. And I never have, and I still don't. You've been a part of coming out to Holly Pride and stuff. I don't even make money. That's not for money. That's not to try to be a part of a larger network. It's just, it needed doing. And so you do it. It's just because you believe in it, or you're passionate about it and you want to help other people. But I do think that I will only compare what you just mentioned about the podcast is hey, obviously you're building a network. You want longevity, and you're investing a lot of money, time, and resources into it. But think of doing that, just like wrestling. Think of doing this for 10 years or 15 years or whatever. And then all of a sudden you just wake up one day and go, oh, I think maybe I need to do something different. And it's it doesn't make any sense, because you've already spent the time, the money, the resources, building something. But then let's say in 10 or 15 years, you have 40 shows on your network. And your network, you did what you wanted to do. You honored your brother. You created a network. You filled it with great content and different perspectives. And hopefully that's making a difference in somebody's life out there. And then maybe, just maybe, that's a functioning background piece, and something else calls you to use these gifts, but in a different way. And just trying to reconcile that. How did I just spend 15 years building this, and now all of a sudden I'm supposed to do this? It's a weird psychological component. So if that happened to you, it's oh, I got to let go of my normal, my comfort, my baby, my thing that I gave everything to. And while I don't have 10 or 15 years in on that, the amount of stuff that I have been a part of in the last 4 years is not normal to me. Like, people are like, you are everywhere. You are doing this. You are doing that. You are, and I'm like, I think I pushed 10 years into 4. Like, I can tell you my body feels it. Like,
Sure.
but.
And your brain.
And my brain. And I think, so what ended up, I have mentioned it on a previous episode. I don't remember which one that we talked, but I think it was one of your shows. But, you know, after the election back in November, we also closed my store in January, like 2 months later. And we kind of knew that was probably coming, you know, so it wasn't like sudden, but I was slowly grieving the death of something my husband and I put our blood, sweat, tears, like just everything into to build. And it just, sometimes things don't work out. And I have a quote for that somewhere in here that I found on one of my awesome memes today. But doing that and having all these people, strangers and friends alike, like believe in you, donate their money to your campaign, like all this stuff I went through, and to have it kind of all happen within 90 days of each other was just like, and then I sat down and I couldn't get back up. And I wasn't depressed because I lost the election. And I wasn't depressed. I mean, I was a little depressed about having to close the store, but at that point it was a relief because it had become so stressful that it was a relief, even though it was sad. And so once that happened, I didn't understand, like, I mean, I was bummed, but I wasn't like lay down and do nothing for 5 months bummed. But what happened was I laid down and my body was like, and that is what you need to do. You have not stopped for 4 years. Sit your ass down. And people didn't see me places. I was not myself that people were used to. And people thought there were, something, what's wrong with you? And I was like, nothing's wrong. I'm just tired. And then I recognized, months into that, it's not wrong. It's just different. I'm changing. It's like going into your cocoon and then coming out. The butterfly was always the caterpillar, but now it's incarnated into something different. And it has a different job to do than the caterpillar did. And that's kind of how I feel. And I'm slowly like coming out, of this cocoon, but I'm not sure what the job is yet of my butterfly. But I always know that my heart's with service. So it's just a really hard emotional process, to go through. And then you disappoint. So we're going to get into second tier of this is relationships and friendships, because when people have an expectation and know you a certain way, they expect you to be a certain way. And when you grow and, you move on your journey and it doesn't align with the proximity of their journey anymore. I used to have a really hard time with this, like friends, people are everything to me, And so when lives would change and people move to different parts of their life, it almost feels personal. Like, why am I not good enough for you to hang out with anymore? No, it's my life is taking me here and your life's taking you there. We can't, and I told my husband this today, and he has helped me actually over the last really our whole relationship, but to understand this concept and really be at peace with it, which is that, and I said to him today, if you had to be around every person you've ever known in your entire life all the time, that's impossible. Like, people move, people change. And we've talked about that even just last episode about like who you were 10 years ago is not who you are today. So there's people I met in my 20s that I wouldn't hang out with today if you paid me. Like, oh, awful. But at 22, they were cool as shit. Like, right. Because we're different. Your values change, your life changes, your experience changes. So I wanted to share and get your thoughts on this as I was looking some stuff up, because I will say relationship shifts, seasonal shifts, is probably one of the hardest things I've dealt with for the last 25 years. And I finally feel very at peace with it. And I'm sure, as I become 51, I'll be even, whatever. But just really accepting appreciate the opportunity that I got to know a person and they were in my life. Like, I'll use you as an example. I'm so excited that you're in my life. I love that I know you. I love who we know together, and that you gave me the opportunity to do this podcast and we get to build a relationship. In 10 years, I don't know. I don't know where the hell I'm going to be or where you're going to be. And maybe we don't talk for 10 years and then all of a sudden you pop up on the who knows what social media thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't mean that this didn't matter or have great significance. But I can't be with you for the rest of my life. Like, how unrealistic is that? And so if I take that approach to all the relationships I've had and deep friendships I've had, it makes logical sense. But 10 years ago, I couldn't process it. If one of my friends moved on and I didn't see them, it would be like grieving a death. Like, and I would be like, why? And you would try to like force it. And so anyway, that just, I think, comes with age. But I found this little poem, if you will. It says, author unknown, but it has been attributed to one of my great heroes, Eleanor Roosevelt, potentially, who said it, but I cannot say for sure she wrote it. But it says, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. When you figure out which one it is, you will know what to do for each person. When someone is in your life for a reason, it is usually to meet a need you have expressed. They have come to assist you through a difficulty, to provide you with guidance and support, to aid you physically, emotionally, or spiritually. They may seem like a godsend, and they are. They are there for the reason you need them to be. Then, without any wrongdoing on your part or at any inconvenient time, the person will say or do something to bring the relationship to an end. Sometimes they die. Sometimes they walk away. Sometimes they act up and force you to take a stand. What we must realize is that our need has been met, our desire fulfilled, their work is done. The prayer you sent up has been answered, and now it is time to move on. Then people come into your life for a season because your turn has come to share, grow, or learn. They bring you an experience of peace or make you laugh. They may teach you something you have never done. They usually give you an unbelievable amount of joy. Believe it, it is real, but only for a season. Finally, lifetime relationships teach you lifetime lessons, things you must build upon in order to have a solid emotional foundation. Your job is to accept the lesson, love the person, and put what you have learned to use in all other relationships and areas of your life. It is said that love is blind, but friendship is clairvoyant. I found this to be so perfect. I was like, I kind of knew, some people are temporary and some people are permanent or whatever. But like having this broken down this way was really nice, because I think when you understand this concept and you accept it for what it is, it makes seasonal change in your relationships more palatable. Like, you and Sean, y'all have been friends forever. That's one of those kind of lifetime friendships, Maybe I'm more of a seasonal friendship, and then the person at your job who's helping you through a project is your whatever that was, the first one. The reason. They're in your life for a reason. I'm in your life for a season. Sean's in your life for a lifetime. So
right.
They all have their purpose and they've done their job. And you've maybe been that person to someone else and you've done your job. But now it's time to learn, grow, and take that into your other relationships. And I think if we all started a job at an entry-level position and we just stayed there and never moved because we like who we work with, we would never excel and grow. We would become mundane and boring and never be challenged. And I think relationships are the greatest challenge of our life, literally, to challenge you to
the whole seasonal thing, I feel like by and large is more applicable to a professional setting for the very reasons that you just laid out. Because as you were sitting there saying that, I'm thinking of my career just at GM. I've been at GM for 11 years now, and the people that I knew on year one, the people that I worked with in year one, I don't see or hear or talk to anybody from that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
We've moved to a different building. We've moved to different apartments where there's more people that have transferred in from other plants. Like there's all kinds of different variables that go on. So, and like for a few of them, like it bummed me out because I genuinely liked these people. They became friends of mine. We hung out after work, but as life does, it takes him or her that way. It puts me on this path, and we just, because you're talking about a place that's got 5,000 employees, you know, and there's the likelihood that we're going to get back on the same page, on the same shift, in the same department is pretty minimal, right? But you start to adapt and, okay, this person is here for this reason. And for a lot of it, I never put it into words until you just said the whole seasonal thing. I'm like, my God, as you were reading that, I'm like, well, that's Tom. Oh, that's Dawn. That's, you know, that's what's happened with all these people that meant something to me. We may be Facebook friends, but I couldn't tell you the last time I saw them in person, you know, and we work at the same building.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, and I'll say this because I've had, you know, proximity breeds typically like your work friends, and if you're lucky, you might find one or two of those people that stay outside of the work environment if y'all change. But you know, you have your work friends, and that's a great thing because you all can commiserate, or you're experiencing the same set of circumstances simultaneously, you know, so you can come home and talk about it, but your partner, your child, your friends, like they're not there. They don't really know how your boss is. They get it, like the inside joke, the nuances. And so there's a camaraderie, you know, with that. And I've had a lot of wonderful work friends over my life, and many of which I'm still friends with on Facebook, and I love seeing where their life's taking them, and it brings me great joy, you know, to see, oh, they had a baby, or they finally got that retirement home, or they're, you know, you just things you remember talking about in the lunchroom, and you're seeing it manifested later. It's great. But there's I've had several coworkers that were great friends that back in the day were, you know, we went different ways, but then somehow we did come back together. The relationship was completely different. The circumstances were different. We had changed over 2 years, and even though we were still friends and we had the good old days to talk about it, we were just a different, you know, because we are. So it's just a weird thing. But it happens to everyone. And I think just giving it some oxygen to like talk about it is very therapeutic for me, because in my particular set of circumstances, I know like thousands of people. You know, I mean, you're living a very public, active life of networking. You have to, I think another reason I was very exhausted is, and it's okay, I love to do it, but I was also not only knowing this many people, I was managing probably 100 relationships simultaneously on a regular basis. Not my circle, like multiple. Managing one relationship is a lot of work. Managing your relationship with your children is work, your spouse, work, whatever. Managing it with your best friend is work. Managing 100 relationships in your community and your people calling you for things, or you're calling people for things, or trying to make stuff happen is just, it's craziness. I don't know how I was even doing it. Like, I think about back in my 20s when I used to stay out till 3 and 4 in the morning, going out to the club and, you know, dancing. And now I'm like, it's 11:30 at the back roads for karaoke. I got to go. Like, I got to go home and go to bed, because you can't do that anymore. It's not maintainable. I feel like that with friendships and relationships. I don't think I could ever micromanage that many relationships at one more time. Like, you know, like how was I even doing it? But you don't go into it like that. It just accumulates. It's like hoarding. It's people hoarding. But for a good reason.
Good way of putting it. Very good way of putting it.
But I think ultimately when relationships do end, and it's not end like we broke up and now we're not friends anymore. It's just they change. The season changes in your proximity and your obligation and your life choices, whatever it is. You it's almost like if you're the one that got changed on, it's like a rejection. It's a,
Right.
oh, why don't they want to be with me anymore? What did I do? Or, oh, they're sick of me. And if you have insecurities or anxiety and things that already are triggered in this, my dog is feeling very neglected. She just keeps barking. One day we'll do a whole episode on my new apartment full of pets because it's ridiculous. We went from having no pets to one dog to cats and now a baby kitten this week. Since I've seen you last, we had a baby kitten. His name or her name is Flynn. So that's been a whole other story. But anyway, I think for me, it was always very much a rejection of, my own insecurities. Like, oh, did I talk too much? Was I not reciprocating in the relationship enough? You just start going in your head trying to figure out why this person left me. It's an abandonment trigger. And then I think to myself, now there's only one person. There's so much of me to go around, and my family made a great sacrifice for the last several years and supported me wholeheartedly. But we're now at a shift in my life where I have a kid starting high school. I've got one that's about to graduate from college, just moved out on her own, first apartment. And, my husband and I, as we are approaching this final 4 years with a kid in the house before we become empty nesters, if that's what you want to call it, like, attention's got to be paid. You know what I mean? And so when you're shifting your purpose, your intention, your job change, whatever it is you're doing, I wonder sometimes, am I making people feel like I felt? Like that I've left them or abandoned them or rejecting them, or that they're not important to me anymore, because that's how I felt for a long time when that would happen to me. And now I feel like I'm the leaver, not the leavee, to a lot of the relationships in my life because my obligations are changing, and so I try to be mindful of that. And I don't know. So like, that's just it's been a heavy week for me, not just because of all this, but just in general. And it's really been, I heard that song on the radio, or maybe somebody was singing it at the Backroads or something the other night about you find out who your friends are by the Tim McGraw or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and I think about that. I'm like, yeah, you know who your friends are, but sometimes I feel like we kind of shit on people who are our friends, but you think because they didn't show up for this one thing, oh, bastards. Like, it's but truly not everyone can be everywhere all the time in your moment. And so it's I don't know. I'm going through a lot of shifts in personal life, relationship life, career life, purpose. Like it's all moving. And I think I'm just kind of proud of myself for talking about it in this calm of a fashion, because if you'd have met me 5 years ago, this would have been a whole other episode.
This is something that I deal with on the regular now because of a number of different things. We touched on the wrestling aspect of it for a minute. Sean Brugel will attest to this. In the wrestling business, if you are a worker, we have our own like brotherhood,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are a promoter like I was, in addition to being a performer, that takes on a different layer. And once that individual no longer has any use for you or your company or their spot that you have provided for them, they will go seek their successes elsewhere, which I always encouraged. Now, my problem at that time was, okay, you were focusing on exploring other avenues. Don't forget where you came from. That was my biggest thing, because they would go off and do great things and work bigger shows. Like, they forgot about me. They forgot about my company. They forgot about, if it hadn't been for this, you wouldn't be where you are right now, right? So I kind of adopted that in a professional setting, but as I was embarking, self-admittedly, by my own choices, I made significant changes in my personal life because it was not where I wanted to be. I was not happy. I was not at peace. I was a shell of who I thought thought and felt like I should be. So I made changes. I hurt a lot of people along the way. But along those lines, in the aftermath of that, I have stuck my flag in the ground. Be like, this is who I am. This is where I am. You have two choices. You can either hop on board and enjoy me becoming the best version of myself, or you could piss off and go over here and talk as much shit as you want to talk, because I'm not living my life based on what you think I should do. Right. So, I mean, that's just one aspect of this. But in any scenario, in any case, when you have to sit there and think about making a dynamic shift in your life like that, to the point to where the people that are in your bubble, in your inner circle or whatever, if they're no longer serving you the way that you feel like they should, or there's any kind of dissension or anything like that, for me, at this stage of my life, I'm 47 years old, man. I don't have time for bullshit, you know. If you are bringing me an exuberant amount of drama, chaos, controversy, anything like that, and there's no signs of improvement, you're out of here. I do not care. I do not give it a second of thought. That's just where I'm at. Not everybody, you know, I don't encourage that, but that's just what works for me, because
and it's just setting healthy. It's, you have to, and your boundaries change as you grow, and having them in the first place is number one, and having, you know, setting them and then enforcing them and then learning how to move them as you move, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's interesting that you bring that, just kind of all that up, because it's like, I feel like there's a deeper, even going deeper than that, is that there's something in our collective consciousness as a society. I don't know if it's an American thing or just a human thing, but there's also like a sense of, and I think it could go either way. It's like you're pigeonholed into, this is like, you remind me of my husband. Like, nope, you're dead to me. Like, not because he hates someone, but like, nope, boundaries, nope, not putting up with that shit. And he can just like walk away. I'm not like that. I am somehow the nice person. I hate conflict. As much as people are like, how could you be an activist and hate conflict? I will get involved in conflict if it's like values based, like if you are spreading hate or, you know, whatever. But like, I don't really want to argue about what color the wallpaper is going to be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get into stupid arguments. And I hate the blowback of it. I hate I would assume just slowly remove myself from the situation and not have to like confront it or say anything about it, or I just slowly disappear into like, oh, what you been up to, man? I've been busy. Like, I would rather do that than actually have to put that hard line, because it's so uncomfortable for me. I don't genuinely enjoy being a badass or a hard ass. I just not. But I'm also getting to a point in my life where I'm like, man, people kind of take advantage of that, you know, and I recognize it. Yeah, I'm not stupid. I may be anti-conflict, but I'm not dumb. But it's just very difficult for me to address those like head on. I'd rather just walk away. Like, but there comes a point where you can't do that. You have to find the gusto within yourself, because I kind of almost feel like you owe it. People owe it to you. You owe it to people. If you're like in a super tight relationship with someone and then all of a sudden it's just changing, like, you could either acknowledge it or you could just walk away. It's up to you. I think it depends on the person and the situation, but it's just hard, because that happens, I feel like, in our daily lives, just with the ins and outs of people. But I feel like when you are very much you recognize it. This is okay. I look back on my life. There were 5 or 6 moments where, if I look back now in retrospect, I could see the writing on the wall. I could see the signs. I could see the things being stripped away to make room for this change in my life to go in this direction. And I feel like that's what's been. It's all right. Jason, edit out like 10 seconds. My kid's walking in, the dog's barking. All right. If you could do that, please. Stupid phone. Anyway, so anyway, I feel like when you recognize that the trajectory of your life is going to shift in a more, just in a very significant way, to go like, okay, here's what the next 5 years, you're going to be getting into, or, people come and people go as you change. And so just learning to kind of deal with that, be okay with it, and just be thankful for the gift that you had with the time that you had them. And then I always think, oh, who do I get to meet next year? Like, who is going to be in my life that I didn't know I was going to know you. If Sean and Sharon hadn't invited me to karaoke, I'd never met you. You know what I mean? And so it's like just being open to, let's go back to all the episodes, getting out of your bubble, trying something new, meeting new people, like exploring other options. And then what cool people do you get to bless or be blessed by? Or figure out what you don't want. Because sometimes it's not always a blessing. I saw this other meme today, though, that said, or a little quote that said, everything I ever let go of has claw marks on it. I think that this is the first time in my life, I think that statement is true for every day leading up to now. Like, I don't feel like this desperate need to hang on to my unnecessary things or things that are moving. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I screenshot all these things to share with you, Jason. They're so exciting.
No, I appreciate that. That's a pretty powerful statement right there.
Mm-hmm. And then I have one more for you that says, this one was delicious to me. It says, please understand this. Bad chapters can still create great stories. Wrong paths can still lead to right places. And failed dreams can still create successful people. Sometimes it takes losing yourself to find yourself. And that, I feel, when I read that today, I feel like that summarizes the last 9 months of my life. It was a bad chapter. It wasn't bad. It was just rough, and I've been through rougher, but it was definitely a refining of me over this last 9 months. And, it still created a great story. And I went down some paths. I wouldn't call them wrong, but they were not deemed successful, but they still led me to right places. And we had some dreams that failed, but they still create successful human beings. And sometimes I've been lost for 9 months and I'm trying to find myself again. And I'm slowly feeling like that's happening, and kind of excited to see what weird thing's about to pop around the corner. Like, what, you know what I mean? And almost in an anticipatory, like, exciting way, which is before it's terrifying. And so, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I feel like there's just a lot of people out there that struggle with this and that, have misplaced anger, guilt, resentment toward others that really isn't anything more than people's seasons changed in their life and proximity changed.
That last thing that you just read, and how you can apply it to your individual circumstance, your story. You just got done saying that the last 9 months has been, we'll call it, less than ideal. But at the same time, you look at every story, every movie, every TV show that you have a personal appreciation for, fanfare for, you have to go through those types of chapters in order to really fully tell the story and why the end result means as much as it did, because you had to overcome this. Another way that I attribute this, and I use this as an example all the time in real conversation, and I got it from a movie, and it's a movie that gets shit on more often than not, but like this particular quote or this particular scene stands out to me. And like, I watched it when it came out in 1988. And when I watched it in the theater in 1988 at the young age that I was, at 47, I still incorporate it. And it is this: a sculptor brings a block of rock to his studio, right?
Mhm.
So he works months and months and chipping away and cutting this and blasting this off. And after a while, he creates this beautiful sculpture. All of his buddies, all of his friends, all of the townspeople flock to this thing and are like, my God, you created a masterpiece. The man says, I didn't create anything. The masterpiece was already in there. I just had to chip away the extra rough pieces. And
Mhm.
I incorporate that in just about every aspect of my life. Yeah, we may be going through seasons of change. We may be going through these different chapters that are less than ideal. They are testing our very patience, our resolve, our dedication, our determination, everything under the sun. Because a lot of times these are obstacles that get thrown in our way as we are embarking on different goals, challenges, or whatever the case may be. You can do it. You have it in you. You just have to chip away all of the ill feelings and all of the people that may not be in your best interest at that point, or as life does, it has taken them this way. You're going this way. But my point here is that within all of us, we have in us who and what we want to be. We just have to eliminate or figure out how to mold what we have inside of us based on what is presented to us. And if that means eliminating people, eliminating situations, eliminating venues, whatever the case may be, within all of us, we have our ideal version of ourselves. We just got to figure out which pieces we got to chip away to get to that point, right? So,
Yeah.
because I mean, I kind of joked off air. I'm like, they could write a story about or write a movie about my life right now and where this thing is heading. Well, you can't get to the end of this particular
Yeah.
story without revisiting the bullshit that went on to get us to
Yep.
this point, because otherwise it don't mean anything, right? There's no substance. So
Yeah.
this, with you, as you are embarking on your own individual changes and things of this nature, yeah, there's going to be people that come and go, and they come for the right reasons or they go for the wrong ones. Doesn't matter, but it's all part of your story, and that has to be acknowledged and it has to be respected to some regard, because it's all a brick on the path that leads your journey to where you are now and
Yeah.
where you are heading.
Well, and that's all. I mean, thank you for again always being able to take it all and nutshell it into this very eloquent summary, because the truth of the matter is too, which we could probably do a whole episode on it, but I but I do want to just quickly touch on it, is that there's also, I think, a sense of just, I can only speak for my own self, but I guarantee you there's other people who do this. I don't quite know why. I have my own, I've worked through it and recognize it like we've been discussing, but I do have a weird kind of, an abandonment thing, because I take my friendships very seriously. Very, my friends are my chosen family. I treat everybody if I had a big enough house, I'd just take everybody in. That's just how I am. But I have a gift that I was just born with, to be able to walk into a situation or walk into a group of very different, just random people, and I can talk to anybody. I can take to this person and go, these are two opposite people, but if I'm the only glue, the only common denominator, I don't know, but I can put people together and make it work, to get things done or to just help build relationships. And that is a gift. And I didn't realize that I had it until people actually pointed it out to me. And I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense. And I was just being myself. oh, it's just what I enjoy doing. But the truth is, I have somehow, when we talked about like managing hundreds of relationships simultaneously, it became clear to me over this last 9 months when, as you know, like I've shared, we met at karaoke. I strangely go to karaoke for therapeutic components. Like music is therapeutic to me, singing is therapeutic to me, being around people who love music is therapeutic to me. And so it kind of helped me as I was looking through songs and lyrics and like going a little deeper, because I take it way too seriously. You can talk to Sharon about that. She's got the notebook. I'm telling you, this is like a serious thing.
I know.
But what it did was it allowed me to remove myself from, it wasn't to ignore any problems. It was to refocus and retrain my brain in a different way, using the parts of your brain that help you practice and perfect. And like, oh, I'm not quite able to hit that note, but if I do this a couple times and learn some tools to help me, I was able to achieve a note that I couldn't a week ago, and there's the way those like kind of mind practice things go on. It actually helps like reset my brain or something. I don't have any science to back that up, but that's how I feel. And the reason I come full circle on it is that I recognized something over these months. I'm not sure what day it happened, but it happened. And it's that I stay busy and I hoard people, not because they're objects, but because I love people and I love to love people and they're my battery charge. But what happens is I think in my life, I have been left by friends. And sometimes it was just life shifts. Sometimes it was a falling out. I'm not perfect. I'm not for everybody. But it was so deeply painful to me that if I have 200 people around me and I feel like someone's getting a little sick of me, I can just go over here and hang out with these people and I'll give them a break, but I still get my friends. And then later on, they'll forget. Like, it was not a healthy situation. Like, right. And I think a lot of it came from, yes, I love people, but it also came from a fear of rejection and abandonment and staying in a situation where people just might recognize that I'm a bigger mess than they expected, or, you know what I mean? Or just, I talk too much and now they're sick of me and then they leave. And it's just like, and it's all these things. So I've been doing a lot of like self work on really just learning to accept and love myself. And that doesn't mean I just get to say, hey, this is how I am, deal with it. You still want to be the best version of yourself, but I am who I am. And that means you can't just love me or like me or be around me when I'm only doing what you like that I do. You're either going to like me for who I am or you're not. You know what I mean? And I got to do what's best to be whole within myself, to be a good spouse to my partner, and to be a good parent to my children. Like, and I can't do that if I'm an empty shell worrying about what 200 people think about me. And so even getting on this podcast is weird because, we've been up in here cussing. And I'm a cusser, but I don't think anyone, unless you know me well, knows that, because I don't put it on Facebook. I don't, you're running for office. You don't go out there dropping F-bombs everywhere. But like, if you're in my sailor circle, if you know, you know.
Right.
But it's interesting because a year ago, we couldn't be having this. I'd be like, oh, black bar, beep that out. Like, why? Everyone in half the town around here speaks worse than I do publicly, and nobody cares. But when you create an image of yourself, this is the image that people expect you to live up to. So I have a really bad piece of advice. Set your expectations low. You won't disappoint people. Then you can mess up. Nobody cares. That being said, I will share one more little quote with you that I think is very interesting based on what I just shared. And it says, I am still learning how to hear the word beautiful and let it be meant for me, to breathe it in and let it belong here. And I feel like you could replace the word beautiful with, I am enough. I am growing. I am changing. I'm learning. I'm okay. I'm not okay. Like, fill in the blank. I am still learning how to hear the word fill in the blank and let it be meant for me, to breathe it in and let it belong here. And I think when you are going through changes, true seasonal changes in your life, you question everything. And, you're trying to find like what worked, what didn't work, what lessons did I pull from this? What do I not want to repeat? What do I do want to repeat? You're just really, you're like on trying to figure it out. And I think when I read that today, I was like, oh, yes. Like, I don't need people to tell me I'm pretty. Okay. I don't care about that. But to say beautiful could mean a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
like you're enough just as you are, and let that be okay. Like, I have a hard time taking compliments. Like, I really do.
Same.
Because I don't, and I think that was an insecurity, that I don't want people to think I do anything I do for compliments, because I don't.
Right.
And you always want to be honored and not honored, but like when you're working hard, respect, whatever word,
yeah.
Validated that you give your best to whatever you're doing, but it's not for, let me be clear. If the life I've led was for power or wealth, I have failed. I have neither. So, you know what I mean? But just because you want to do it, but I think we live in a society where it's just, we live in such a greedy world that people don't think that people's intentions are genuine and selfless sometimes, and so it's hard. So I'm always like super self-aware of that, and so I'm getting better at it. I'm learning to just say thank you when people give me a compliment. I'm learning to not take it personal so much if people are like, hey, I just, sorry I haven't been around, life's changed, I'm just doing this. I'm like, girl, do you be the best you can be. I wish you, bless you on your way out the door. For the people who've done me wrong, I wish you all the best on your way out the door too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time to bask in the hate and the misery and the resentment and the whatever. Like, hey, it is what it is.
I say that. I used to say, I wish you the best in your future endeavors. That's what I used to say. Now. And I actually credit this to Amy Sheridan on the Real podcast, which drops every other Saturday here on the network. She said something a couple of months ago, and like, I immediately adopted that. I no longer wish people the absolute best in their future endeavors. I wish them the life that they deserve. That's not for me to decide. That's for karma to decide. That's for a higher power to decide. That's not for me to decide. But I'm not going to sit here, and if I think you're not on the up and up, or you're not up to par to, the whole boundary thing, like, I don't wish you any ill anything. I just wish you the life that you deserve, whatever that looks like.
I can dig that. Well, and you know what's interesting? And maybe it's why, like, I don't put a whole lot of oxygen into it, but 10 years ago, I was a vindictive, mean little person. Like, I talk all kinds of shit. I'd talk about what I wish really would happen to you. And that's the great thing about personal growth, because I have made plenty of mistakes in my life. I have done people wrong. I have, been nasty. Like, I mean, not really recently, but, in my growth, in my 20s and 30s, like, and I think it's just, I'm at a point where it's like, oh, that's so much emotional labor. Like, I don't care, like, whatever. And it's not that you would be not human if you didn't feel hurt or get and feel pain when you care about something and it doesn't work out the way you want, or someone just disappoints you with who they are, or just, I don't know, or the job didn't pan out the way you thought, or, whatever, someone's screwed you over or whatever. But I'm at a point where it's like, that was unpleasant, whatever, good luck to you, and like what you deserve. But I think, thank God, I hope I'm not getting the life right now that I deserve, because, like, I hope I'm not reaping what I sowed from, a couple shitty years in my 20s. You know what I mean? So And in some ways I do understand the deeper meaning of that, but I'm like, oh God, thank God I don't get what I always deserve.
I mean, I feel like with anybody, there is a period of time where what I call you're paying your dues.
Yeah.
And like I have applied that in my personal life, like as recently as yesterday. You know, like I am, you know, I have paid my dues. Like I know I have done wrong. I know I
Yep.
have made mistakes. But I also know who I am fundamentally to my core and what my true intentions are. I am
Yes.
not an evil person. You know, I have paid my dues. I have what I think. Um, I don't want to say rectified my path to where I'm at now, but I also believe that things are going to start falling into place for me because I have paid my dues and
Yeah.
like I have provided enough good in other people's lives where like I'm ready for karma to bring that part back around for me. And like
Right.
I'm starting to see that becoming a thing. Like it goes right back to the very beginning of what we talked about. I would have ideally liked it to happen a hell of a lot faster than it did,
Right.
but the fact that it is at this point makes me appreciate it that much more.
Well, I'm excited, especially just you've had a long day. I've had a long day, week. I don't know. We're both, we're just two people going through things. That's what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing and navigating our way through. But I think to maybe come back to that, I think I might have already addressed it, but just to finalize the pin in those lyrics that I mentioned, which was a time you may embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. I don't know why that was so powerful to me, but it was like learning in your age and your experience that it is okay to say no.
Yep.
You're not for me. I am tired. Oh, I love you so much. Ooh, yikes. I'm going to refrain from embracing you. Like, or embracing this job or embracing this offer or this opportunity or this friendship. Like, that, I don't know, that like somehow resonated with me, or this obligation or whatever. But I think at the end, I will never listen to this song the same. Rude. I'm having to use my phone today. So, but I think at the end of the day, there's something very cathartic about the fact that to everything, turn, turn, turn. Because what it means is that nothing, even though your life may not always be, you may never get where you hope you're going, but that does not mean you cannot enjoy and find the joy or find the comforts in each day, and that's where I said I'm learning to just take, like, what does today have for me? What
Right.
can I do today to be helpful or kind or contribute to society? Sometimes that means I just lay down and do nothing and keep my mouth shut, and that was my contribution. And sometimes it's more active, but there's something very hopeful about seasons. It's one of the reasons I actually love living in Michigan, coming from Texas. The seasons, that first year I lived here, it was like, oh my God, all the leaves are brown. We could do all the songs today, the
Right.
60s songs. But like, I had never really seen fall before. I really hadn't, like, for real. Like, oh, it was beautiful and green in the spring and everything's growing and bees and flowers and clean air and blue skies. And then like summer, oh, everybody's just enjoying water and sunshine. And then fall, everything's dying. And then winter, like Texas, we had hot and hotter than hell and hurricane. Like that was it. And so there was something so spiritual for me the first year I lived here, and I've never lost it. There's something beautiful about, I hate the saying this too shall pass, because sometimes that's not everyone's reality. Their life's just shit forever and they do the best they can. Like I've seen it, but there's something hopeful about seasons. It's that there's a beginning and there's an end, and then there's another season. And so I feel like just it reminds me sometimes that somehow the difficulties are not permanent. Now they might be new difficulties in the next season, but this difficulty, this moment, this day, this frustration is not forever,
Right.
And so sometimes for people who are struggling to just get day to day, sometimes it's minute to minute. You know, if you have struggle with depression or you're just in a pit and you can't find yourself, like this moment is going to change in about 60 seconds. And then let's see what you just have to like hang on. So I'm actually very, as much as this has been a very slightly frustrating, uncomfortable period for me for the last 9 months, I do feel like I'm coming out of that into a little more awareness and a little more self-understanding and some changes, and like coming like the end of this season into the next. And I'm thankful for the opportunity I had to be in this cocoon for 9 months, because now I just have a lot more understanding of my own self and what I needed, what I didn't need. I think I mentioned to you many shows ago at some point, I didn't know who I was anymore.
Right.
Just me, like me without any hats, no titles, no obligations, no responsibilities other than to just wake up and be myself. I didn't know who that was anymore. It was lost, not because it was bad, but I had just buried myself in things that I didn't even know how can I feel, because I'm not allowed to say that out loud because I'm running for an office and I can't be viewed as weak or human or vulnerable. Like there's just too much image stuff that you get lost in it. And I think about everyone that's in Hollywood and politics and everything else. And I'm like, man, I wonder who the hell they are anymore.
Right.
Like, do they even know? Even if they're doing good things. I was doing good things, but you get lost in, and so I'll end the way I started. Someone told me I share too much. It is critical for me and anyone who might align personality-wise with me to share too much. I have to. Like, what is there? What do I need to hide? I'm tired of hiding how I really think or what I really am or what, like, this is who I am. I'm a person with feelings and flaws and successes and journeys to navigate. And so hopefully anyone listening to this, I know there are, and I thank you, by the way, to a lot of my little friends out here in Holly who are avid listeners, and I'm sure in other places, but I appreciate that people take an hour out of their day to listen to what I have to say or what my guests have to say. Like, that's still mind-boggling to me. I'm like, oh, they haven't heard all the words from me yet. They're still tuning in. So, but this is very therapeutic, because this, like I said, when we started this show, I'm not here to talk about, it might come up in general conversation, but like, this isn't a political show. This isn't an activism show. This is just, now I'm getting to use the people I've met, the lessons, the content, just all the stuff, and just put it out there and like let people dig through it and see if something resonates with them. And that's really exciting, because this is very much just me talking. This is Kristin without the hats talking. And so it's going to look a little different and sound a little different to people who do know me, you know? And that's okay. I'm okay with that. So, anyway, but I know, you have to get over there and make the cars. You make the show run here, and you got to go make the cars run at GM tonight. So that's
kind of what I do. Never a dull moment.
Hey, man, thank you, and all of the great union members over there at GM for toeing the line and doing what you guys need to do to keep every one of us Michiganders moving. And for doing the hard work, man. We appreciate you.
You know, with everything, I can't go too far into it right now, obviously, because things are kind of sensitive. But I feel like the auto industry in the next couple of weeks here is really going to be a focal point, at least on the flagship show, because that's something that affects me personally, professionally, like all of it, right? So people they read the headlines on social media. They have an idea, which is by and large wrong. I don't mind telling you. Okay. But you can switch over to the flagship show in the next week or two. I'm sure I'll have plenty to talk about it there. But hey, as far as this goes, this is what I was made for. Is the network? It's doing this with you. It's providing you the opportunity, and like I'm here for it. So there's no place I'd rather be.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that, Jason, because this morning while I was having my delicious gingerbread latte from Battle Alley Coffee, which they're not a sponsor, I'm just giving them a free plug because they literally make the best coffee in the world. Sure. Right here, roasted right here in Holly, Michigan. And I love the owners and everybody. But I was having my coffee this morning and had a free moment. And I hate to tell you, but I booked out like the next 7 episodes with.
Nice.
Yes. So I'm actually really excited about content. And it's pretty diverse and whatever. But I did want to just share to kind of give a teaser to our listeners, which I've been kind of trying to do a little bit of that on the Facebook page, just so that people kind of get an idea of what's going on. But I think it's going to be, bear with me 1 second so I can double check. What is the date today? I don't even know. 27th?
Today is the 27th. Yeah.
Okay.
Recording this.
So next Sunday, the episode wouldn't drop next Sunday, but the next episode that you and I would record together. We brought on Shadia and Emily a while back to talk about like women leading the way, and that's awesome. And there's some great men leading the way at some point. I am sure I will recruit my people. But this next episode, I haven't even told you about it yet. I'm so excited. We have mentioned how I think you love the Act Up stage company kids, right? Yeah. Like these kids that give you hope for the future.
Yeah.
And probably at some point we'll have them on too. But I have a lot of young people in my life, whether it's friends' children who've grown up or just my community involvement with schools and people across, whatever. And I had an idea for a show in mind. And I don't even know how I managed to do it, but I managed to get 3 incredible different ages. They're 16, 18, and 23, I think. Kids, young people who have, when I tell you their stories and what they're doing with their lives to make a difference for other people, it's really mind-boggling. And so that is going to be what's going on in our next episode. But I do want to just go ahead and plug it on this one too. There is a book. You can go on Amazon actually and order it. Or you could Google it. I don't know. I love Google. But it is called Dreams of a Better Life by Mackenzie Heyer. This young person is actually, when I've mentioned that I worked at Rose Hill many times, Rose Hill Center, which is a mental health facility here in Holly, Michigan. This child's mother was my boss at that company for 5 years. And we maintained a great relationship after I left the organization. But this child was probably 5, 6 years old when I met them. Sorry. And talk about synchronicity and being at the right place at the right time and having a mom that's worked in mental health for 20 years and then having their own personal journey, which they're going to share with us on the episode. But they wrote a book. It's a book of poems. And it was written while they were inpatient hospitalization for mental health. And I have a copy of it and I finished reading it today. Unbelievable. I know this child. Now this child is 16 and very good friends with my daughter. And so that's how this kind of all came about. And I was like, man, so to support a kid who's really trying to lead the way and helping other young people with mental health issues. And he actually got a book published, like of their personal lived experience. So if you're on Amazon and you're into that, Dreams of a Better author on my next episode, along with a young man named Jaden, and also my friend Alexis, who is down in Texas. And so I implore you all to tune in. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in thus far into this episode. Jason, thank you so much to the PFC Entertainment Network for hosting Say What on your network. Thank you for co-hosting and tit for tat with me today. And I wish you the best evening at work. And I think we're gonna say goodbye on that note. So I wish you all a blessed week, and hopefully you'll be tuning in next week.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And don't forget to check out all of Kristin's new merchandise over at cafepress.com/PFC Network, the official online store of all of our shows here on the PFC Network. And yes, by the time you hear this, Goat Cult shirts will be available.
Yes,
I have to upload them. I was going to do it here today. I run out of time, but it is on my top of my agenda for the morning when I get home. So there will be Goat Cult shirts available.
I should say for anyone new to the show, though, are we still recording, Jason?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, listeners, we're still recording. If you don't know what goat cults are about, just go listen to episode 2. Get out of your bubble. Then you'll know. Jason, thank you so much for everything. And we'll see you guys next week on Say What.